What's going on, fellas? Took my rest day yesterday. Gonna head into deadlift today. I've moved to a 7-day split. For those of you who follow my training, you'll know that historically I have done 6 days on, 1 day off, 6 days on, 1 day off for the majority of my training career. It treated me quite well. I made some really good progress. Eventually, I got to the point where I was strong enough, I was doing enough work that no matter how well I recovered, the last 2 training days of each week would be pretty damn unproductive. I would just be too fatigued to get in quality work with good form. So what I ended up doing is I ended up making the call to switch to an 8-day training week. I had enough training that I wanted to fit into the week, especially when I was doing strongman. There was so many things I had to fit into the week that I couldn't fit all that work and enough recovery into a 7-day training cycle. Because I have a relatively flexible schedule, there's no reason that I have to stick to 7 days. So I moved to 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off. And this increase in rest yielded me some really big PRs, great training cycles on the squat, bench, and deadlift, just because the quality of the work was a little bit higher coming into each session recovered. And then right now we're moving into the house, hopefully next week. Me and Max have a lot to do as far as spending a bunch of money on moving in all this gym flooring, getting the rack set up, moving all of our plates over there, moving a leg press over there. Lots of work to do, but as soon as that gym is set up, expect a lot of training videos because I will be very keen to film my training if I'm not getting in people's way at the gym. So that'll be coming up. Because of this, I've had a lot of work to do, been very, very, very busy. So I decided I would try to fit my work back into a 7-day week. So I moved to a split of a heavy upper day, and then a heavy squat day, and then a volume/hypertrophy upper day, rest, heavy deadlifts, heavy press, and rest, rinse, repeat. And I'm very confident in how this is laid out that I will be getting comparable results in this 7-day training cycle to what I was doing in the 8-day training cycle. Because of the decrease in squatting frequency, I will ramp up the intensity just a little bit, put a little bit more load on the bar, take my sets to a closer proximity to failure to make up for it. But yeah, that's where we're at. Yeah. All right, so I was drinking the energy drink my girlfriend was so kind as to get me. Those of you who have heard me complain before, you know that I am quite poor. Don't let the fact that we're getting a house mislead you. Super broke. Thankfully, because I'm getting it alongside my brother and my girlfriend, the entity of the three of us, it's financially responsible and viable. No, I'm nowhere near being able to buy a house. I try to keep my pricing coaches as low as I possibly can because most of the people that I'd like to work with who are just like younger dudes who are into lifting and very passionate about it also don't have $100 a month because their parents aren't rich. So I've always tried to keep it low because of that. And I can't have too many clients or the job that I do for each of them begins to suffer. And then I'm not really providing any value. Part of the reason I would love to eventually try to diversify my income stream, that way I'm not poor. But because I am poor, I've stopped drinking energy drinks. Got to save money. I realized I was spending a shit ton of money that I didn't have, just being tired, going to grab an energy drink before training. So I went and I bought what I always buy, which is the big thing of caffeine pills from Bulk Supplements. They're 200 milligrams each. I just take 1 before training, 2 if I'm really nervous about the session and I really would like it to go well. And that's what I do. So I haven't had an energy drink in forever. My girlfriend bought one for me. So I'm drinking that, getting hyped up because I assume they have some other stimulants in them aside from the 300 milligrams of caffeine because it feels like more than the 400 that I have. Maybe it's a placebo effect from the flavor. Maybe there's other stimulants in there that are a little bit more potent than I thought they were. I don't know. I feel jacked up though. So I was thinking, I was like, do I mention it in the video? I haven't mentioned it really before, but I really want to complain. So last week, you may have heard me mention that I got a surgery. Haven't really talked about what, just said it wasn't injury related because it's none of anybody's business, but motherfucker, I want to complain. So I got a vasectomy last Tuesday, so I've always kind of known I didn't want kids. And if I did change my mind, I'm very confident I would want to adopt, just like there's already a plenty of kids out there, right? You don't need to make another one. There's one that needs a house, right? Like, oh God, my moral grandstanding aside, I don't care what other people do. That's just how I've always thought about it. So I was like, oh, well, I'm not worried about regretting it, right? And that way my girlfriend could stop taking birth control because I know that messes with her strength training and has some other negative side effects. It's just hormonal birth control isn't always great, wrecks your strength, maybe lots of issues there. And I was like, hey, I can do something about that, right? Because we're trying to make sure she's like, you know, mentally healthy and functional for work, because she works a lot of hours, works very hard. And I was like, yeah, well, okay, guess that's something I can do. Fair enough. Went, got that done, but god damn do my balls hurt. I'm back to the point where all of my training is more or less uninhibited. I somehow managed to hit my bow bar bench double PR last week, the day after, no discomfort, which was cool. I got through that whole training session, no issues, only to find out that squats hurt somewhat. I can squat now, pain-free. The only thing that's killing me is getting down into a conventional deadlift position. Not so fun. We have conventional deadlifts today, so we're going to see how that goes. Yeah, my personal anecdotes aside, right? Definitely going to be an interesting one. Think I'm not going to go very hard on the deadlifts themselves. Hit some rows, hit some RDLs, little posterior chain work just off the GHD. I've been making some small changes to my training, so that way when I transition over to doing most of it in my home gym, that I don't have to make that many adjustments based on equipment. So I've been moving over to like using the cable machine that we're going to get from the gym because they're buying a new one. I've been moving away from dumbbell work because it's gonna be a while before I can afford any meaningfully heavy dumbbells. Moving into like some specialty bar work that I can buy. And the little tweak we're making is moving away from use of the hamstring curl, moving it over to doing back raises off the GHD, and then full glute ham raises because I already bought one of those for the home gym. And it's been nice. I've never really gotten the opportunity to push full glute ham raises before, just because I've always liked seated hamstring curl or even a lying hamstring curl more, because it's training the same general motion. There's this bias that calisthenics motion is going to be super effective. You know, pull-ups always going to be better than a pull down. A push-up's always going to be better than a bench. And they do have their benefits, but just because they're closed chain motions doesn't make them innately better. And there's a lot of benefits to more precise load selection on the pull down or the bench press, for example. Whether you're really weak or you're really strong, the use of them kind of can increase, right? So it's like if you're kind of intermediate beginner area, a push-up is really good. But if you're super beginner and super weak, a push-up is too much load. It's better to do an empty bar bench through a full range of motion or use light dumbbells. And then if you get really strong, it's so impractical to do a heavy weighted pull-up, not heavy weighted, or I guess heavy weighted pull-up or heavy weighted push-up, that it might be better to use a pull down again. So it just kind of depends on the person. But because I like the more precise load selection, I can hit my volume markers. Programming for it's a little simpler. I've always favored towards doing whatever hamstring curl the gym has. Love hamstring curls. And never really bothered to push the glute ham raises, because anytime I would go do one, I would just go do ham curls instead. So I've been doing them recently. Kind of fun. You're not quite loading the full range of motion to the extent you can on a ham curl, which is okay. I think definitely it's a little bit more like, I know this is really simplistic, so bear with me, but I do feel it's a little bit more like strength biased as a motion rather than hypertrophy biased as a motion. I think some exercises do lend themselves to hypertrophy focused training. Some lend themselves to strength focused training. Some work really well for both, like something like a bench press as a simple example, maybe a squat as a simple example, lend themselves really well to both. Maybe a deadlift might not lend itself to both, just because I find that deadlifting for high volume isn't the best use of like a stimulus to fatigue ratio. And usually if hypertrophy is the goal, doing a RDL instead is easier to recover from, better stimulus for the hamstrings, comparable stimulus for the lower back. So it's like kind of motions can fit into those categories. And I've found that to me, maybe it's just because I'm heavy and I'm not so strong at them yet that I'm putting in a ton of volume, but I have found that the glute ham raise is more of a strength focused motion than it is a hypertrophy focused motion. Got no evidence for this, just anecdotal speculation. I will see you fellows at the gym. What's going on, fellas? I know I just told you guys I would see you in the gym. I lied. I realized I am sure as hell not going to talk to my camera in this gym that is full of people. Fuck that. Maybe once I have the home gym, we can have the mid-workout, like, you know, what I'm thinking updates, because I like videos that do that, and I figure you guys might be the same as me. But But because I'm not doing that here, don't have the home gym till next week, I figured I would tell you guys what I was going to explain in the middle of the workout, which is why is today so light? You'll notice I'll probably work up to about 500 pounds. Don't know how my balls are going to feel, but probably 500 pounds for a couple of reps, maybe 5. And that is a very low percentage. I've pulled 800 pounds conventional, probably such a low percentage that's way below where most people would advise you ever started working like a training cycle. Obviously, I'm easing back into a new motion to some degree, switching over to mixed grip, but it's not that new. Everybody knows when you're easing into a motion, you should probably take your time, spend a couple sessions to get the technique down. So part of that is just taking it easy to get the technique locked in before I push them anywhere near failure, because you'll notice that not only is the percentage really light, but the proximity to failure, I'm probably going to be like 10. I could probably do 500 for 15. Maybe. I don't really do high rep deadlifting, but that would be my guess. I will probably be quite a ways away from failure, and that is the intention, because I'm getting used to the technique. And the other thing is that I think there's an injury risk. A lot of the time when you see a bicep tear, what happened is someone did a lot of their training in straps, maybe trained their grip separately. And what happened is they lost the ability to externally rotate at the shoulder. So that external rotation then needs to come from the forearm. So loss in that external rotation and trying to, wedge yourself into that grip is, in my opinion, I have no evidence for this again, a frequent culprit. You'll see, like we all know that a lot of the time the reason a bicep will tear is because the arm will start straight, and as they begin struggling, they'll then load a bend in their arm. Suddenly there is a lot of weight running through the bicep tendon. It detaches, right? So it's the bend in the elbow. That's the real problem. So as long as we keep our triceps flexed, we'll be okay. And I think that's a little bit overly simplistic, because there are some people who deadlift, and I'm sure you could find them on Instagram, who deadlift with a bent elbow their whole career, never straighten it out, and they never get a bicep tear. Because theoretically, if we are doing our training in a specific manner and we're always deadlifting like that, we will increase the tendon strength of the bicep in that position proportionally as our deadlift comes up, and it will probably never detach. A concrete example of someone who always pulls with a bend in their arm is Steve Gentili. I don't think Steve Gentili's bicep ever detached, right? So it's like, to say that it's just the bend in the arms might be a little bit overly simplistic. Part of it could be that loss in mobility. I definitely speculate that's a big part of it. And then part of it could be, okay, we bent the arm when we don't normally bend it. Usually we deadlift with it straight, and then when we started straining and it got heavy, you began bending it to try to keep the weight moving, right? So I think that would be part of it. Because of all this, I've been deadlifting in straps for a while now. I've probably lost some of my external rotation on that left arm, and by probably, I definitely have. So I'm easing back into it today, not going to pick up anything that's even taxing on the grip yet. Basically just picking it up. I'll probably do touch and go, just because I find that lowering it under control kind of helps with that mobility. I don't have, again, anything to back this, just that feeling of, okay, well, we're loading the negative, trying to keep my arm locked, trying to keep my shoulder externally rotated. Doing that then controlled negative helps me feel a lot more mobile the next week. So I might even do touch and go today. Not something I generally advocate for, but for this specific purpose of just trying to make sure I get that external rotation back, probably will do some drills between sets. That's what I'm going to be doing. But I figured I would pop on here and explain why the hell it's so light. There's other reasons we might start light, like if we get to the point where we're logging Max's training on here. God, that guy gets it. The guy gets it hard on Instagram. Everybody's like, oh, I deadlift 200 pounds less than you, and I can do this set. Why am I not good at singles like you? And it's like, bro, did you watch the set? Max had like 10 reps in reserve, right? And we talked about this in the large lads episode, where the strategy that we've seen the most success with for Max is to keep the proximity to failure pretty far away early in the training cycle, really hammer our technique, lay down our volume submaximally, and then go kill ourselves on the accessory work to build hypertrophy that way, rather than going and killing ourselves on high rep squats and drilling poor technique. It's just not a good way to prepare. But yeah, so that would be my explanation as for why I'm doing that today. If you've seen me train, I definitely take my sets a little closer to failure than Max does, mostly just because I think it's fun, to be honest. I can say with honesty that I respond well to the lower proximity to failures on the squat. I have the framework down where I know where I can fiddle with my volume, so I can make good bench progress doing more sets further away from failure, or higher intensity sets closer to failure across the whole block. My technique probably looks a little cleaner doing the sub-maximal approach, but I've got benching down to the point as far as my programming to where I can make good gains either way. And deadlift, I should be staying further away from failure than I do. So hopefully the whole switching to mixed grip thing will give me an incentive to take it easy early in the training cycle and not just try to rep stuff out. So gonna go hit the gym. This has been a long preamble. Thank you guys for watching.